Good afternoon and welcome back to the Workbench. So today I've got here for repair a little Sony CD player slash radio slash USB MP3 player, I think. It's also got a line-in jack. It actually looks quite a nice little system. It's got a handle, portable thing, and it takes batteries in the back as well as having a mains cord, so quite a nice little thing. I guess you can use it for portable stuff or little mini hi-fi for a bookshelf kind of thing, I think they call it. Don't know about the audio quality, haven't listened to it yet, but yeah, it seems like a fairly decent little thing. Only problem with this is my friend just told me it's been dropped recently, and now it doesn't work properly. Two problems with it. One is the volume buttons don't work anymore, and the CD player won't detect that the lid is closed. It just thinks the lid is constantly open. So I turn it on here. Let's see. Okay, so what have we got? USB. So I put it on radio, for example. Probably can't hear that. It's not particularly good reception there. Obviously the antenna's not up, and I can't change the volume to make it any louder, so you might not be able to hear anything. But anyway, you can change all the functions and everything. I put it on CD. It just says open on the display there, so even though it's closed, you open it, it still says open. You close it, and it still says open. So it's refusing to detect that anything is actually in there, and the volume buttons do absolutely nothing. Now, my friend's already opened this, actually, and he's told me that he's found that there's a little board underneath here for all these buttons here, and it's actually cracked in the middle in half. Well, actually over here I think. It's cracked there, and the buttons, obviously the volume buttons, are not connected anymore because the board is cracked, and the sense switch that senses when the lid is closed, that's obviously not in circuit anymore either. So it looks like it should be a fairly easy fix, just to take this board out, patch up the tracks in the circuit board, and put it back together. So it should be quite easy to do, but I just want to talk about that. In general, when you get something that has been dropped, especially something like a CD player or a tape deck or VCR or anything with mechanical parts to it, especially something like a CD player, it requires quite high precision. Something worth watching out for is, just because you see an obvious fault like the cracked board, easy to repair, but who knows if the actual the disk drive, the laser assembly, etc., all that is actually still in good order. I mean, yeah, we'll find out when I repair the board, but all I can say is, if you're looking at a repair like this, of something that has been dropped, especially, like I said, with something with mechanical parts to it, it's always worth checking, or bearing in mind that there's no guarantees that just fixing the obvious fault will fix everything. It could be something misaligned with the laser, it could be something's bent in the transport sort of thing, that kind of stuff. Bits of metal can bend and things like that, especially when something gets dropped. So yeah, good thing to note that. So hopefully this will be an easy fix, but there's no guarantee just yet if the CD player will actually still work. But yeah, let's take it apart and get the board out of it, and we can hopefully get it going in short order. Right, so just taking a close-up look at the unit here, you can see if I power it on, what have we got it in? CD, yeah, so it says open here on the display, which obviously is not open. If you open it, makes no difference, it still says it's open. If you close it again, still says it's open. So that's definitely not working. And if I go, say, to the FM radio, see that should be volume down, it should be volume up, does nothing. So yeah, the volume controls don't work, and the CD player won't detect the door being closed. So yeah, everything else seems to work, so hopefully it's just that broken board, and hopefully there won't be anything wrong with the actual CD mechanism. But anyway, I'll get on to taking it apart, and we can have a look inside. So I'll just disconnect the power here. I don't want to leave that on. And I've already got the screws out My friend took the screws out already, obviously. So I think the screws, there are 2 on the bottom, one there, 3 along here. There's none under the battery compartment, surprisingly. Usually there are quite often screws under these in most of these kind of things, but in this one there wasn't. And then I think it's just a screw under there, under the CD player part, and then there's a few more under the handle. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, and another 3 along here. So that's how that goes. Anyway, so once you got all those screws out, the top should just lift off. Like so. And that'll reveal the inside of the device. Now, there's obviously a few ribbon cables connecting things here, and the board we want here is this one right there. So I need to unplug this cable, and then I should be able to lift this up far enough that I can just unscrew this board and take it out. And you can also see there's the wire for the detect switch that detects the door there. So you can see that goes onto the board here. These 2 buttons go here, and I think the board is cracked right about there. So everything here is just effectively disconnected. So that seems to be what the problem is. Pretty simple, hopefully. So I'll detach this ribbon cable, and this one plugs down on this another board behind here where it goes to the display. They don't look like locking connectors, they just look like ones you just have to pull, so I'll just pull it. There we go. That's come out. There's a couple of other ones down here, main ribbon cable for the CD player down to the main board, and then like some power cables in that. Probably see in there. So I probably don't need to take those out actually, I can just probably unplug this switch. It's got a little plug there, and then just unscrew this board just as it is. Okay, I've just turned this upside down and got this sitting on top of this, on this little stand where the screw goes in, so it's enabled me to get fairly good access to this board and find my screwdriver doesn't fit. So let's get another screwdriver. This little set here should work. No, this one. Yep, that fits. Okay. Let's use that. There we go. So we've got 4 screws it looks like here, which is pretty good because means we don't really need to glue this board back together before we put it back in the case here. Yeah, so you can see this is broken completely off. So normally with this kind of thing you'd have to glue the board back together, but in this case we've got a whole lot of screws, so it's not really necessary. There we go, that all just comes out there. So we got our little button assembly there, so take that off, and we got the board, which is obviously snapped in half. Well, not exactly in half, but it's snapped. So we've got 4 screws for that. I'll just put those aside so they don't get lost. And yeah. Okay, so I was actually wrong about the location of this. This detect switch actually is on this side, and these buttons. That's the power button. Okay, so the power button is the only one that's still connected, I guess. So volume, so not just the volume, but the three in the middle, whatever they were. What's that? 1, 2, and 3. Maybe some pre-programmed playlist or something, or tuner presets. So yeah, so it looks like that separated all these buttons. Probably didn't work, but just the power button. So yeah, there we go. But yeah, I mean, this is a pretty cheap board. It's FR2 or phenolic or something. Definitely not fiberglass, which is why it snapped so easily and cleanly. So yeah, normally you'd have to epoxy that back together, and then you do your trace repair on the other side. But in this case, we got the screws right there, so it's not really necessary to glue it. So we've got 3 traces. Let's see, we've got 3 traces there. Let's see, can I get this in focus? Probably not. Yeah. Got 3 traces there and 2 sort of ground connections or power connections or whatever. So yeah, they're quite fine. Look like 0.5 millimeters traces, but they should be easy to fix. There's only 3 of them. We can do that in 2 different ways. One way is to repair at the actual break with some jumper wires, or the other way is to run like a separate wire from one of the points that this is soldered to, and then run that to wherever that's going. So probably the large traces on either side of these tracks, I'll probably scrape away around those and actually solder it back together, so that'll give it some kind of mechanical strength. And then for the 3 traces, I'll just run some little green wires from the from this plug header, these solder joints here, to the switches or the resistors for the switches or wherever needs to be connected. That should solve the problem. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is scrape away the solder mask from these large traces on either side of these 3 small traces on both of these parts. So I've got something I can sort of solder these back together with to give it some rigidity, and also obviously connect those parts of the board. Now there's probably not necessarily connect all of them. I mean, this pin down here, pin 5, seems to be the ground pin, so that goes to this, which is just a ground plane that goes around the entire thing. But yeah, for structural support I'll do that anyway, and obviously we need to connect at least one side of this to give an actual connection to the ground or the 5 volts or whatever that signal is. So first of all, let's get a sharp knife here and just scrape away some of the solder mask. Now you want to do this pretty carefully. Don't scrape away the actual copper. You just want to scrape away the green paint and just get the copper underneath. Now I would scrape these 3 traces here as well if I was joining at the break there, but I don't need to. It'll be easier just to run separate wires. So what I'll just do is do that, so we can see that's got a nice clean bit there, and then I'll do the same thing here. Now of course this one's easy because it's a nice single layer board, single sided. It's nothing big deal to worry about really. But of course on a multi-layer board this could be next to impossible unless you've got a schematic, and even then, you know, something like a motherboard 8 layers or something, it's going to be pretty much impossible to repair if the thing was actually snapped in half like this. So yeah, it all depends what it is, but something like this, single layer or a basic 2-layer board with just traces on either side, it's not too big of a deal. So yeah, so I've got this scraped away there. You can see it's all good, so now it's just a question of soldering that together. So what I'll do is I'll tape it on the other side just to hold it in place. Let's get a bit of this masking tape. Just to make sure that it's reasonably close together. And then I'll solder this here. That should hold it there a little bit, and I'll just solder the other side. Just go back over this one. Get a nice blob there. So there we go. If I take this tape off, you can see it's not too bad. It's all lined up. The crack is lined up there, and that's obviously not going to be perfect. You don't want to put too much strain on it, but it's going to hold together while I do the rest of the work. And of course there is now an actual electrical joint there between those traces. But the three in the middle obviously are still disconnected, so I'm going to have to run some wires for that. So what I'm going to do is take some of this, just fine wire here. So like I said, for example, this lower trace here connects to this pin 1 there on that connector, and then that goes down along here to one side of this resistor 406. So just run a wire from this soldered point to that solder point, and then do the same thing for the other ones wherever they go. That's probably the easiest way of doing this for this particular board. Okay, I'll just show a close-up of the board where I've just repaired it there, so you can see the points that I just did. You can see those 3 tracks there are still broken, obviously. We just got the solder blobs holding this board together. But we follow this trace down here, like so, where this is pin 1. So this track goes along there, goes along here, and it ends up going to R402, 406. So yeah, just have to solder a wire that runs between there and there. So let me just do that. So I got my pre-tinned piece of wire here. Just bring this down there. Solder that on here. And can just run this along the board to 406. That's a bit better. Now you should be able to see what's going on. So like I said, I soldered this end to the wire here. I just got to solder the other end down there. So I'll just melt the insulation off with the iron here, and it's kind of the easiest way to deal with these thin little wires. If you try and strip them mechanically, they just snap. So yeah, this one connects to that point there. So we'll just put a little bit of solder on this. And I'll just re-tin this bit there. There we go. Now if I actually get my tweezers, probably help a lot. Just bring this in here like this. Or not. Maybe if I bend this at a right angle. Yeah, that's better. There we go. That looks good. Make sure this doesn't get in the way of the screw. Just move this like over here. Let's see, we got that little bit there. I'll just cut that off. So there we go, that's one done. So now I've got to do another two. So the next trace is, what do we got? So that was pin 1, that will get to there. So the next one is going to be that one there, so pin 2 it looks like. So that goes along here, goes underneath these resistors and goes over to the sense switch. So I'm going to move these. So yeah, so the next wire I need to run is from pin 1 on the switch there down to pin 2 on this connector. So we'll just do the same thing. I'll just tin those points a bit. There we go. Also, I guess I'll see what that third one is. That's pin 4. Tin that as well. Looks like that goes there, and that one goes over to this point here on this button. So let's put some solder on that. Or does it? No, hang on. That one goes to this resistor, sorry. There you go, don't assume anything. Right, so got our next bit of wire. Just tin that wire, and then I'll bring that down here. We can actually get this under the camera. we go. Just make sure you don't get the end of the wire shorted out to any other pins. There we go. So this goes all the way along to... where does that go to? It looks like this is snagged up. Anyway, let's cut that about there. That's definitely long enough. Too long, but hey, that's fine. That goes over here. So let's cut that about there. Now I can melt the insulation off again. Go. It's probably a better way of doing this, but oh well, it works. Just tin that. I mean, I know this wire's already tinned, but it's not bad to give it a fresh bit of tinning. Okay, let's do that the same as the other one. Sort of bend it at about a right angle. Then I'm going to come in, actually bend this around a bit more. Come in from the top here like this. There we go. That should be done. Alright, and now it's just that one. So let's grab another bit of wire. How long does this need to be? Not that long. Probably would be easier to use enamelled copper wire that has the solderable insulation on it, I guess. But hey, I don't have any of that. I've only got this stuff in terms of wire that's really fine. So just bend that around there, and solder this on here. And again, make sure that you don't get this bit here, like touching this bit. That looks fine. So now I'm just going to bring this wire along there. So let's cut it out here. Melt some of the end off there. I'll just hold that down there like that. There we go. Not the prettiest soldering job in the world, I guess, but you know, this is a fairly relaxed board, so it's not a big deal. Just move that out of the way. The screw hole there. Same with that one. Can go like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I could run a little bit of tape along the top of those wires just to make sure they don't move around too much, but I think that's probably unnecessary, but I'll do it anyway just for the sake of it. So yeah, or you could use more glue or something, but you know, should be fine. Right, so let's stick that back in the player and see if that's fixed the problem. So there we go, that's what the finished joints look like. Just obviously take care you don't short the wires out between the pins there, and if we go along to the other end, you can see, you know, that's not the best solder joint, but you know, hey, it works. So there we go, that's that. Okay, let's start putting the board back in the radio there. So got a little buttons assembly there, so that obviously goes in first. Let's see, goes like that, and then the button board goes on top. And I think I'll have to prop this up a little bit because these buttons have to go and sit just a little bit off the edge there, obviously. Anyway, so there we go. This is the somewhat boring part. There we go. Now, this plugs back in here. That wire goes through that little guide there, just to keep it out of the way of all the stuff underneath. Now we've got to turn it all over and plug these cables back in. There we go, that one goes like that. And this one goes. And there. And then this just sit back together. Excellent. So let's power it up and see if it works. Okay, obviously you want to test it out before you bother screwing it back together. If it doesn't work, it'd be a waste of time. Now, so have we fixed all the problems, or is the CD mechanism completely ruined and we'll end up going down the rabbit hole to hell? Who knows? Anyway, let's see. Turn it on. Well, the power button still works. That's a good start. CD. Read. No CD. Well, there we go. It's not saying it's open anymore. So if I press that open, now it says open. Close it. It says read. Okay, so the switch is obviously working again. Do the volume controls work? Not necessarily, but maybe you need to go to something where the volume is actually controllable. That's interesting. Those do not seem to do anything. Well, that's fun. Okay, so maybe those buttons, I'd expect that to work, but obviously it doesn't. Oh, I can't turn it off either. Maybe I've miswired something. Whoops. Well, that's what happens when you don't pay attention to things and you try to be clever. This wire was incorrectly connected. Shouldn't have gone from pin 1 to this resistor. It does in fact follow this trace which goes under that resistor and ends up connecting over to that resistor instead. So I wondered why the volume button still didn't work, and it turns out I'd actually connected the wire completely incorrectly. So that pin 1 should actually connect to that resistor there. So I'll just run a wire for that, and now it should actually work. Unfortunately, this is the kind of problem you get with something very fine like this when you're trying to do it under a camera. It's not super obvious what's going on. If I had a microscope with a camera connected to it, you know, that would be a lot better, but obviously I don't, so I'm more likely to make mistakes. But anyway, there you go. That's just what happens. Nothing necessarily works perfectly on the first try. So I'll just do this again. And this time, let's run the wire to the correct resistor. Oh dear. Where are my side cutters? Let's see. This one will go over to about there. And this time I will actually get this out of the way so I can actually see what I'm doing. Yeah, I know, I shouldn't use my soldering iron tip as a wire stripper, but it's very hard to do it with this wire without destroying it, to strip it another way. And I've just ordered some new tips for my iron anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That one that I'm using is a bit crusty. I think it was $1.50 from eBay or something about 5 years ago, so considering how long it's lasted, it's not too bad value. I ordered the better brand, the best soldering genuine fakes, fake Hakko tips. Well, not fake Hakko actually, they're genuine best brand tips, but they're designed for the Hakko 936 and all that. So yeah, anyway, they're the ones that are coloured black instead of silver. But Best is a pretty good brand from what I've seen of their solder and their other soldering products. So I'm thinking their soldering tips should be quite good compared to the generic fake Hakko ones that cost like 50 cents. Alright, so you probably can't see what's going on here, but that's just the way it is. Let's try with the tweezers so I don't burn my finger anyway. Is that on there? Yeah, let's just make sure that's away from that one there. That looks pretty good. Should actually work now. Seems to be a common thing, isn't it? Last radio that I repaired that was dropped, I also put a wire in the wrong place and then had to move it. Strange how things like that repeat, even though it doesn't really make any sense. But hey, there we go. Alright, let's try that again, and now I've done it properly this time, or at least I believe I should have. This should go back together and actually work. So I'll just plug these in. The power for the CD drive motors, the FM aerial, got the optical connector from the CD player. That goes on that main board, and that's already connected, and we've just got this bit here. Alright, let's see if it works this time. Should do. Actually check that I've got it plugged into the right place. Alright, so let's see, does the power button work? Yes, the power button works. It's a good start. Is there anything I can prop this up on so I don't have to hold it up? Let's just put it on there. Okay, so it says no CD. That's good. So obviously the switch is still working. That's good. So let's try volume. Volume works now. That's good. I actually got the correct resistor wired up. Alright, let's work these ones. Does it do anything? Let's see. 2, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you probably can't see that changing. Maybe you can, I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely working. You'll just see that. So 1, 2, 3, and volume up, and volume down. And we open that. Does it say anything? No, it's not in CD mode. There we go. CD, open. And now it's closed. And it's reading. And there's nothing there. So, the real test though is to actually see if it'll play a CD. So, probably would be good if I actually had one of those to start with, wouldn't it? Have I got anything over here? Windows XP. That probably won't work. see, got something in my computer here. Let's try this. What's this? Something classical I can't pronounce. It's in French. Alright. Shouldn't be copyright, should it? I don't know, it's from 1977. Probably earlier. I don't know. Well, anyway. Whoops. No, I don't want Windows XP. Go away. Well, I do want Windows XP, but not in here. Alright, so open. Let's see if it reads. Read? It says reading. Will it actually play the disc? That's the question. It's thinking about it. Oh yeah. Let's see. Play. Seems to work. Let's try all the tracks. I think this had what, 15 tracks? Okay, let's try the last track. Well, there we go. Seems to work, doesn't it? I have no idea if this audio is going to be copyrighted or not, so I won't play too much. I mean, it shouldn't be. It's probably some old classical thing from like a billion years ago. It shouldn't. Should it? I don't know. Better not. But oh well. Well, seems to be able to play fine. Don't know why it took so long to read the disc to start with, but hey, seems to play the first and last track alright. I guess it's working. Certainly working a lot more than it was before, so that's good. Looks like the CD has in fact survived the fall. So yeah, that's good. Like I said, problem with these sometimes is the mechanics can be damaged if it drops, but in this case it seems like the mechanics are fine. So yeah, it was just that broken board, which was easy to fix as long as you don't wire the wire to the wrong place. Anyway, there we go. So I'll just put the screws back in, and that should be it. I can call my friend up and say it's done. I'm sure he'll be pretty happy. Oh, guess I'll see you next time then.